So with International Women's Day in mind, I'm going to go back a little bit. My poems are going to feature the voices of women from ancient Greece in part. And I don't know if they were nasty. I don't know if I would want to be a woman in Athens. It's pretty much a man's world. You could go out to festivals and that was about it. But here we go. So the first one is called Ariadne to Theseus. And if you remember, Ariadne was King Minos's daughter, and Minos built a labyrinth with a very nasty minotaur in it. And so Ariadne helps the Athenian hero Theseus escape, and then they elope, and then he ultimately abandons her. There was a question as to whether she was Dionysus' wife. Okay, here we go. Ariadne to Theseus. My eyes were closed, but I wasn't sleeping when you left me on that rain-drizzled beach. It was just easier to say, I had no idea. But you gazed out too many times at your ship's sails, slow pacing in the wind. Everyone has stopped asking me about you. They're all too lost among my husband's endless racks of bottled wine. Sometimes late at night, when I'm awake in his arms, Dionysus doesn't know I still work the monster's maze in my head. Hear your laughter behind me before I trip on a live wire I've mistaken for a string of thread. I'm actually going to go to Italy now. 79 AD, that probably rings a bell. It is when Mount Vesuvius erupted, and very disastrous time for the people of Pompeii. So this is about a woman that I imagine that was caught. Volcanic ash hit the houses, many people suffocated and or asphyxiated in the gas afterwards. Kind of grim, but here we go. Pompeii. She shouted to her daughter then, her son before, the vapors before her body cut off, a last swerve toward a milky pillar, brush against a sea blue mosaic, glimpse of a dolphin, arcing in a fresco before her eyes shut, cut out this maternal body in an ash bed, receding into a hard mold, a sculpture still pulsing with the startle of separation, with the shock of silence after. This poem is, I think, close to a dramatic monologue. We all know the Odyssey and how Penelope waited and waited and waited for Odysseus to come home. So many poems written about her and him. So I tried to give it a different spin. You know, what was this like for her to go through? Penelope to Odysseus. I know you are not dead. I see the blues and greens of the waters and the islands as your ship passes. I've learned to ignore these weak men and their flimsy elegies. What of a waxy plum or a rare bird feather? Do they really think these treats will get me to howl like a dog? But only spiders, these tiny, dark, intricate bodies at my feet, and never far from sight, high kicking across corners and walls. This is the company I want to keep. I love the way they watch me and how I outspin them. We've learned to share this temperamental light, morning's embrace and night's moonlit arms. Our limbs are in sync. Now arm, now leg, arm, leg. When I return each dawn to tear this web, I can count on their shimmy and shine across these rainbowed crossroads. It's like I'm spying on them. But how to? They spy on my work. I'm even learning how to wait for you, how it can take an entire afternoon to trace a purple filament through my loom. I am inseparable from its frame. I have tied it on my back. It has become a spare set of bones. Only, what does the color of blue say these skeins of the sky sound like? What sadness does green, does the grass carry? If I could only get their pitch right, the way, say, that twist of blue-green seaweed is whistling now as it wraps around the prow of your ship. This next very short poem is written in the voice of Daphne, and you'll recall that Apollo chased Daphne, really wanted to get a hold of her, so to speak, and she didn't want anything to do with it, so she yelled out to one of her river god relatives, and she was turned into a tree. Night wind, after Daphne's story. Still, I shudder, rattle these branches at the very twitch of footsteps in the underbrush. Still fear the round black stones of his eyes moving in the trees. Still count in the dark. Once, when the night wind would not stop, I heard the laughter of a child I could not see. Okay, I'm going to mix things up a little bit and read a poem that was prompted by Andrew Wyeth's Wind from the Sea from 1947, which is at heart a blowing lace curtain in the wind, and you look out and you see the sea. And it's to my daughter. Note to my daughter on Andrew Wyeth's Wind from the Sea, 1947. Stand inside the house, a bit back from the window, taking it in, zigzag of blue-white water, loop of black-green spruce, the sail of white lace curtain. Look closer, within the gauze, the unraveling story of two birds, wings raised, locked, and waiting. Tell them next gust to keep their eyes on the northeast spiral of that far tree, not to be drawn by those bits of mirror water to the left. It's not the thrill, the breeze, a tremble. And wait, love, until you can sense beyond sight their brushes of wingtips, combing the needles of the trees. They only fly while you look. And carrying on with the wings, I'm going to read a poem. The first two lines are by a woman poet that I very much loved, Wisława Szymborska. So the first two lines are hers. Sudden wings. I dance, dance, dance in the stir of sudden wings and the shock of crow calls at 3 a.m. announcing the world has tipped on its shelf. Tomorrow, the sun will not set. Cattle will refuse to stop weaving circles inside their wire fences. Cars will turn into balloons. Prison bars will shatter into grains of salt. Guns will melt into stars to hold and wish upon. Still, we will want to keep a sadness or two. Once in a while, we will turn our eyes upward and ask the sun to hide behind a cloud. And I just have one more poem. And it is an ekphrastic piece. I was looking at the work of John Singer Sargent, and probably a lot of you know this painting, Madame X. It is a very beautiful, elegant woman in a dark dress. She's redhead. Her flesh is very pale against the dark dress. At one point, the strap was down. So it caused a little bit of a stir in Paris in 1884. She was Virginie Gautreau, a young socialite, an expatriate from America, married a French banker. And painters were just really drawn to painting her. One thing she did, the anomaly, or the thing that drew me to write about this painting, is that she would dust her whole body with lavender powder. So here we go. That I promise you the explanation was longer than the poem's going to be, but here we go. Madame X. Sargent said, "I can't get the blue right," as he struggled to paint her in the full light of France. Shoulder strap down, wanted to help show the whole blue tinge of her, what obsessively dusting the body with pale lavender powder could do. Wanted us to believe that we can choose to get lost in the colors and tones and the just awakening names we have yet to call each other. Thank you.
However, we'll start with Sonnet 8. A matter of. Answer all questions. Hypothetical speculations are discarded as invalid. Only lived truths are acceptable. Have you ever been arrested, done more than 24 hours in jail, feared for your ass in a locked room or a steamy shower, when outnumbered 4 or 5 to 1, then held up and felt afraid of the idiot on the other end of the gun, or held someone up and known the fear of the trigger and the desperation of your actions? Known those whose fists are always tight inside their hearts, whose blood is trained to freeze on command? Are you familiar with those drowning in anger, rage, and frustration, who battle denial with a barrage of motherfuckers and bitches and live from the back of the hand to the mouth? Soon, some will learn to weep for others and cease the redundant mourning of their own deaths. Paper in this book is very slippery. Sonnet 20, Burden. I read this somewhere last week or so and got a comment on it from someone, Jim, I think, so I thought I'd read it again. Burden. I carry my language in a knapsack, tossed over a shoulder, that gentle knocks my back as I walk. The letters, the words tumble like balls at a bingo game. I reach behind to pull out 5, 6 random letters, 4 vowels and an H. I repeat the pull, more nonsense. All letters return to the bag. Finally home, the bag emptied onto the kitchen table, clatters out curiosity, like bones holding to a secret. I stir the letters with a finger. I get in return continued confusion and a lack of cooperation. Maybe tomorrow. This poem is titled Adios. I've written a few poems with one-word titles in foreign languages. And I guess, I don't know, just playing around, but they're all about goodbye. Adios. I do not expect I will know my death any more than I will know yours. Dead end, how close are you? Can you see a way where you don't lose? How insignificant one last time, hardly worth a rhyme. There is only relaxation, no struggles or anticipation. What comes next when the moon stills? Here we are, waiting our turn to never smile again, to see you around. Let's shake and grab a hug until I disappear without a shrug. Sonnet 34 is titled Confusion. I can't keep up. The more I read, the more I write. The more I write, the less I read. Time blows clouds my way, the strong kind, not the fluffy ones. The books on my shelves smile dares at me. Come, open me, I can help you balance your phrasing. Find that impossible metaphor that all publishers will drool over and immediately send out an acceptance letter. Deny that smug smile based on an ephemeral moment. Stuff your ego into a sack and close it tightly. There is more that waits to be done. Sonnet 38, just passing through. The problem with now, it never lingers, is never around long enough, always impatient to move on. Strange as it seems, I am now changing to then, with more questions about what I was not. Now and then, play, tease, in mists of uncertainty, not to be confused with before and after. Two straight shooters, easily defined, except when one is a witness in a murder trial. Make a choice, you have a 50% chance of being right. Okay, now we'll move on to some other things. This is a poem. Ellen was a guidance counselor at an elementary school, and well, this will be defined it's about a former student. He never had a chance, as Ellen reads about a former student accused of murder and several robberies. He attended her former elementary school. The major problem, he could not read. Lost by 5th grade. He lived with his mother, her boyfriend, and 2 siblings. His sister was smart. He could not read. His desk was the last row, farthest corner. A nice kid, now on trial for murder, puts up a weak defense with more holes than bricks, escapes with a life sentence. He could not read. In truth, he never had a chance. Let's see. Okay. These are sonnets 96 and 97. They're broken in half. So we have 4 sections here, and each section has a little epigraph, which is taken from the book An American Sunrise by Joy Harjo, and they're from pages 3 and 4. So sonnets 96 and 97. You cannot force poetry with a ruler or jail it at a desk. Ruler, someone who rules. With poetry, it is the poet who rules, makes his or hers known, oblivious to texts of others, the rules that bind, that gray the mind. Ignore these rules, return to the pleasures of imagination. Mystery is a bind, but wills you to untie the cloth in eternity. You write trying to untie mystery's knot. The poems lead to more knots, a comforting pleasure, something you savor, never tire of. Not fooled by eternity, you write on as long as your pen will carry you. Sonnet 97. The end can only follow the beginning. and that will zigzag through time, governments, and lovers. Let the end be open, even in denial. Every letter is a beginning that travels an undefined course. Zigzag opens the mind, travels past governments, maybe even past the critics who are eager to deny you accolades. Persist, accept all challenges. Be who you are, even if it kills you. You are the answer to all of your questions. Relax, reflect, and you will discover the language of your perfection. You will own it in spite of many doubts. The words will flow, filtered through dedication to the truth. All right, I think we'll skip that one. How about a real long one, like a sonnet and a half? How about that? Number 143. It's titled Forthcoming and has an epigraph by the poet Joseph Stroud, The Lucid Architecture of Death. Time dissolves, pricked by shards of memory, labors under the borders of history's nightmares. New diseases carry the burden of skeptical questioning. Governments float on denial as truth shadows disaster, assumes an unbearable burden, dissolves faster than a snowflake. A handshake may be a death sentence. Priceless becomes an anachronism. Monsoons of lies storm for attention. Are we all more or less losers as skepticism becomes the music of choice? Instability and transience lure as new frontiers. Many small explosions deny the process's safety. Hoax whirlwind prances, an illusion of chew on this, chew on that, a choking cud, a desperate music teases sanity. We dance to the rhythm of disaster as the tightrope grows ever tauter. It's a funny word to say, T-A-U-T-E-R. This is Sonnet 144, A Future. An unhurried wind winds its way through the brain's channels. Strong walls protect, but the ego, always hungry, slashes at anything that disturbs complacency. Ruled by impatience to crack open tomorrow's dam that will never be more than a trickle. Best to avoid superlatives, like the word superlative. Unhappy in the future's narrowed perspective. A tattoo of God on my arm, cloud and question mark. Okay, this is a little humor here. It's entitled Excess. Why subscribe to anything for more than a day, a week at most? Yet we enjoy a multi-year rate to save a few dollars that makes us feel thrifty. And if death unexpectedly blocks our way, there are no refunds for the unused portion of anything paid for in advance. So we pay up front and hope to survive. We take a 6-year loan, and by the end of 3 years, we hope that someone steals the car and smashes it beyond repair. Then there is life insurance, which does not really insure life, but offers a token when life is over. And the clever name, whole life, as if you could only insure half a life. Let's see. This is a sonnet which has an epigraph by Alice Walker. I would give to the human race only hope. Are we worth it? For we do not deal well with things of little material value. We swelter in the miasma of our misery. We are not created for the extremes of ice and fire, shiver and hug. Could we, would we be able to take a chance on hope, endure the uncertainty of its nebulous promises? A small itch that grows becomes large and ungainly. Please, more light, less shadow. All right. Okay, just a couple more here. This is Sonnet 158, entitled Walk, an epigraph by Dorian Lau, I guess L-A-U-X. What good are statistics on a morning like this? Let yesterday's storm recede to a small puddle. Let me refresh a smile and eagerly greet my neighbors. Let me accept new challenges and this day not to be a recapitulation. Let me avoid the paralysis of numbers. Let me accept this day without prejudice. Let me bathe in the love I think I have earned. Let me mock the sun as it burns my face. Let me refuse the foolish double dare. Let me grind numbers to confetti. Let me avoid the selfishness of tears. Let me defy intrusive cameras and algorithms as I walk to the park. And I think maybe just one or two more. Oh, okay. This will be the last one. Entitled Poem with Questions, and I don't think anybody's ever heard it. So let me wrap my arms around your energy, your precise movements, your deliberate language that opens its surprising secrets. There is an ease about you, the smile, the way you show appreciation, all fed by a quiet, consistent energy. I have never dared a poem like this, one that could be easily misunderstood. If it is, I would not mind, except the verbal cudgels of disappointment. Language is too often draped in defensive puzzles. This poem addressed to you is about me, and therefore raises questions I cannot answer. Thank you.
I want to say thank you to Rodger for inviting me to read with him, and congratulations on your book. And thanks to Larry and Moonstone for having me, and thanks to all of you for coming. I'm fortunate to be in a little critique group with both Rodger and Lisa and a couple of other folks who are here tonight, which I'm very happy about. So I will be reading a mix of some older and some more recent work tonight. Announcement. Divorce, a razor slice of a word, divided them awkwardly. Dad changed his address. Mom kept his name. I said he'd traveled on business anyway. The tap hammer hit the ice. A slow spread of cracks drew a map in me for shrinks and poems to scratch at. Each of us on a separate flow turned toward a different pole. My brother pushing me under, my father frozen, my mother floating too far to call. Silence seals the spaces between us now. My memory twists out of sight with the facts and histories that lie dusty in the corners of the house on Thompson Street. But artifacts surface. The banana milkshakes my dad taught me to make in the blender with milk, a dash of vanilla. And the clear as glass night we ate pizza while Mom went out and Dad, duly elected, made the announcement that stopped me mid-chew. This is called Down Days. 1. Sly seducer, you are the bad boyfriend with knowing hands who coaxes me in and leaves me bottomed out. You've come around since those days in junior high when I curled on Mom's brown couch instead of going to school, struck by a nameless weight. I hit the couch with you now and you claim me there, drape my limbs. Even my eyelids grow heavy. I say I don't want you, but when you tell me I don't have to fight, I give in, old comfort, old wound reopened. 2. Darkness eats the edges of my vision, and a deep silence beats behind the voices on the radio, the TV. People stare too directly and their laughter rings too loud. Relief flows only in the shutting of my apartment door, the ceiling out. My bed pulls me toward the retreat of sleep, the dishes in the sink, the half-written page, every undone task towers into impossibility. How have I ever showered and gone to work? That other self is a distant rumor. Every day has been this way and will be. 3. By one definition, it is a chemical lack, chemically correctable, but the pills miss their mark in a vast blackness that swallows them and mocks their promises. Or it is a product of negative thinking that I can reroute with positive statements. I did good things today. Doggedly, I write them down. I talk by the 50-minute hour about what happened and how I feel. But it rises from all causes and none, seeping through the windows and under the doors to coat my useless words. 4. It mixes with me, a dark stench or its memory that stays in my nostrils, a weight that squeezes my diaphragm. When it recedes, I flood with the sweetness of merely breathing, and the light, when it comes, shines more silvery, more delicate and bright. This is called Death of a Salt Shaker. Pepper Frog stands suddenly alone on the broad expanse of shelf. Dwarfed by a clutter of vases, he stares hollowly across the kitchen toward the garbage can in which the grisly evidence lies, the still intact head of Salt Frog, bereft of body and the brittle rubber plug that held the salt in. Hidden under a crumpled paper shroud amidst the shocking white of broken pottery, Salt Frog's googly eyes accuse me. Pepper Frog alone seems unbalanced, obsolete. In the broken set, I have lost a tie to a long-lost home. They were an impulse buy on a carefree day in a Lewisberry antique shop. Someone's vacation trinkets, gaudy message stamped across their bellies in mysterious quotation marks. Capture an Ocean City memory. I pin wild hopes on eBay, but if I bought another pair, would Pepper Frog remain forever unbalanced, perhaps longing himself for the garbage can? Pepper Frog alone will join me in yet another home. His mouth, a wide, flat line, is neither smile nor frown, though his eyes maintain an expression of faint apprehension. His slightly hunched body, yellowish and bumpy, stands ready, a stoic soldier, a widower in perpetual silent mourning. And perhaps switching gears just a little bit, this little poem is called Divine Intervention. I message men on plenty of fish. They don't write back. My ego sags. However, I do receive emails from Pet Finder saying I have new matches. What is God trying to say? And a perhaps related poem in 2 parts. This is called AKA. 1. Riley. I carefully chose the puppy and the name. As he grew, morphed to Rabbi, raising the brows of fellow walkers who heard rabbi, occasionally ribeye, evolved to bye-byes or Mr. Bye-byes, shortened to byes, lengthened again to Bybinskis. Woodgie Bear emerged from the ether as I stroked his silky head. Who's a woodgie bear? Then Riley, who loves a pat to his puffy rear, became bum, then bumpkin, then bumpkin pumpkin, my grinning shadow guardian. 2. Rudy. He arrived with a different name that I feared would stick. At the start, formal, I called him only by his one official new name. Then, loosening, Rudinsky, a door opened. He became Rue, then regal, the Rue. His tail began to thump when I walked by. On came Roo-Boo, Boo-Boo, Mr. Boo, the Boo Man, which morphed to Boo Manchu, occasionally even Boo Boo Mancini, my funny, old-souled observer. When I first moved to the Philadelphia area some, 15, 17 years ago, taking public transportation was relatively new to me. And out of that experience, I wrote the following poem called Train. I want to gawk at each fellow rider, the sweaty businessman, the woman with tiny braids, but the straight ahead stares discourage curiosity. The stony faces rumble along, patient as death. They know the codes of this world, which stop is which. They know what doors will open to the platform, and they rise to line the aisle, purposeful as Christians at communion. They fill the time, create their own separate spheres with cell phones at their center. I learn the rhythm, the stops. I sit for half an hour and don't look at the face 20 inches away. But in the crack beneath the stillness, the riders lean toward each other. A smile of recognition splits the grimness. A space expands with chatter. When some flaky lady loses her ticket, people lift their feet to look. When I get stuck standing bunched next to the woman who always knits, she tells me how strangers handed her tissues in plastic bags when she got sick. We're all in this together, she says, and the others nod. We brace ourselves and balance carefully. Against the intermittent, garbled blare of the loudspeaker, we sway, rubbing thighs with unchosen partners. The kid with baggy pants and headphones listens to music so loud we all hear it, but no one says a thing. The sun-seared college girls slide by in their flip-flops and ponytails, jaws working. A craggy-faced man in paint-stained shoes swigs milk from the jug. We sink into ourselves. Next to me, a fat woman stirs and groans softly. Weary, wary, we stare ahead and wait for our stop, where the doors will open and, on a good day, the conductor will say, "Watch your step." I have just a couple left, but this is a little mini collection of 3 sonnets in honor of Rodger, which collectively I call Victor. 1. Survive. Victor is an exclamation point. He stabs out his place in the air, precise. Little white scars snake across his hands. Next to his, my skin seems soft, untried. Victor's not one of those fancy karate guys, all belt and bluster. He doesn't want me to bow too deeply or call him sensei. Fuck that shit, he says. Victor learned to fight for real in El Salvador, on the street, always the smallest kid, and in the army. He killed some people, maybe, but I bet there were some he could have and didn't. Like worshipers, we arrive at the gym on Sundays, meeting at the juncture of our lives, and Victor, kind and gentle, teaches me to survive. 2. Victor as knife. Victor has honed his body like a knife, so hard and quiet he barely seems to breathe. He started when he was a kid, didn't cry when he dripped hot wax on his thigh just to see if he could take it. At 15, he lied to get into the Salvadoran army, learned to stay awake and see at night, cotton cut caught and cut up iguanas to eat. On patrol, told himself that he was made of metal, couldn't be pierced. 5 countries later, he waves away my money. He didn't pay that way for what he knows about pain, pressure points, blades. Armorless now, he shows me how to pin him and swears out loud and grins each time I win. 3, the point. Fingers wrapped around my neck. Victor presses the point where life meets skin. He pushes my elbow almost to the break, knows the limits of trust, muscle, and sinew. I throw myself bulldogish into this game, shoulder blades bruising against the grimy floor. I grapple with the art of inducing pain, finding escape. Joint lock, takedown, control. Victor quick slips past my grasp to trap me. Sullen, my body threatens to let itself be killed until I claw past torpor, unearth the desire to lift myself from harm's way. Shaken awake, I find this death game shoving me toward life. This one is called 102. My mom sent the photo. My grandmother gathered with family. I see more than intended. Anger uncurls. At the sweatshirt thoughtlessly arranged, uneven around her shoulders, her single breast. At the pant legs allowed to ride up her calves, splayed in the wheelchair. And at time, which has put in my grandmother's eyes, despite her lifted chin and attempt at a smile, something I don't want to name. I'll read my last poem now, and I just want to say thank you again to all of you for tonight. This is called Return. I returned from a month in Tennessee. To hell and back? I am changed. All is changed. My loss a grievous injury, the month a rush from which images protrude like icebergs. His hand flashing open like a starfish searching for mine. His focused stare as he tries to breathe. The monitor numbers blinking warning, warning. Don't be afraid to float alone. Is floating what I'm doing now? Certainly I am unmoored. Half of me half believes that if I hit that number on my phone, he would answer. By day, he blurs incomplete. He appears most clearly in my dreams. His absence a cavity, a black hole with its own unfailing pull. Thank you.